This is Scott the Fix-It Guy with the classic LG washing machine no drain problem. Sometimes you get the OE error, or you just notice that it's not draining the water. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to pull it away from the wall, and we're going to make sure it's unplugged. And then when we get it about maybe 3 feet out away from the wall, we'll tilt it back so that it's leaning at about 45 degrees and its weight is balanced against the back wall. It's highly recommended you put something else underneath it too to help hold it up so that you can get in there and do the repair. You can also lay it on its back. Here's the part number for the new drain pump. The LG drain pumps do not last very long. They're otherwise pretty good machines, but these pumps tend to only give us about 3 years before they act up. So we're going to put a new pump, new motor in there. It's not too hard to do. Once we lean it back and support it, we're going to remove a couple of Phillips head screws from the front. One here at the bottom holds on this plastic plate. We can pull the plate off, and then there's 2 Phillips head screws that are exposed higher up, and they're holding the pump into position. They're helping to secure it. So we're going to remove those 2 screws. You do want to try to get all the water out of the machine before you do this so that you don't have a watery mess. You can do that by using that little tube that I just pushed in. So I'm pushing it in so that I can get the drain motor out. I'm going to lay down on this towel and I'm going to look up inside underneath. Again, it's good to have this supported. And I'm going to be removing a couple of the tubes from the drain pump assembly. First I'll do this bigger one that brings water from the tub to the drain motor. So I'm going to squeeze in with my pliers and then pull this black tube off of the pump assembly. And then it's kind of hard to see, but in the back there's a green one, and it's the same thing. It has a spring clamp. You're going to squeeze in with your pliers, get a good grip on it, and then you're going to pull up to get that spring clamp off, and then you can wiggle the green rubber boot off of the pump assembly. We've already removed the 2 screws from the front, but it's also being held in by a plastic tab at the bottom, and we just need to use like a standard head screwdriver to kind of pry that tab toward us, pry it down, and then we can slide the pump assembly out. There's that plastic tab. Some of these LGs have like 2 motors on the drain assembly. One is a circulation motor that would be to your left, and the one to your right, the one we're looking at now, that's the drain motor. This one doesn't have a circulation motor, just the drain motor. We're going to remove these 2 power connectors from the drain motor. Just pull them right off, and then we can get this whole assembly out where we can work on it. These drain pumps are really inexpensive. Amazon sells them for about 25 bucks. Usually what happens with these is that the impeller kind of breaks free of the motor shaft. So the motor shaft spins, but it never pushes the water because the impeller can't move. This one, the impeller seemed like it was still connected pretty good. I'm just checking to make sure there's nothing caught in the drain assembly. So it might have been that on this one the motor just burned out. We're going to remove these 3 Phillips head screws that are holding the motor and impeller into the drain housing. So just zip those out. Kind of remember where they are because you're going to be putting them in to the new motor. We notice too that this motor is at a diagonal to the drain assembly. We want to put the new one in that same angle. Took the old one out. Got the new motor ready. We're just going to push it in the same angle the other one came out. Then we'll add the 3 Phillips head screws in the same manner. I'm going to push the drain motor securely against the housing, and then we're going to get those 3 Phillips head screws in tight. There we go. So I think it's all ready now for us to do the reinstallation. And we're going to once again get down low and go up in from underneath. So first thing is I'll reconnect the power connectors to the motor. There's no polarity issue, so if you mix these up and get them the wrong way, it'll still work fine. There we go. We're going to feed it up into position, feed that tube, that skinny tube, back into that hole, and I'm going to feed the assembly into the white plastic rails. It'll guide it right in, making sure that skinny tube can move easily. And I'm going to just put this green rubber boot on here just for a second to kind of hold things in position. I'll go out to the front and I'll add those 2 Phillips head screws that hold the pump against the frame. So I'm going to kind of reach underneath to guide it so I can line up the screw holes. And I'll zip those in. Now we'll put in the plastic case in the front. We'll feed the drain line through there. Then we put in one more Phillips head screw at the 6 o'clock position, and that holds on that plastic piece. So you can put your washer on its back so there's no chance of it falling. Just got to make sure you undo. There we go. Put that back on. You have to undo your drain line and your fill lines before you do that. So I'm just putting the spring clamp back on for this green drain line at the top. I'm going to squeeze in to compress them, and then I'll make sure it's on there nice and tight. I don't want any leaks. Squeeze it and then bring it down all the way down on the drain assembly. Kind of tricky working area here because you're coming in at a kind of a weird angle, but just take your time, make sure you have a lot of light so you can see what you're doing. That one's on. Just want to get it down maybe a little further. So for this one, we're going to make sure we move the clamp way up on the black tube first. Then we'll put the black tube onto the pump assembly. Let's get that on there nice and flush. And then we'll compress the spring clamp and we'll get that as far toward the drain assembly as we can, and then we'll let go at the spring pressure and that'll hold on real tight. That looks good. Everything's on tight. Just make sure that spring clamps as close to the drain assembly as possible. So now we're going to bring the washing machine back down to level, get it plugged in. We'll make sure that everything powers up and that the drain's working again. It's a very common problem for the LG washing machine. All the different versions of it just all have that endemic problem of a bad drain motor and impeller assembly, but pretty easy to replace and pretty cheap. You might end up doing this 2 or 3 times in the life of the washing machine. You'll get good at it after the second time. So we're going to slide it back in. And then we'll turn it on, we'll add water, maybe about half full, and then we'll go ahead and drain it. One way you can drain it on this machine is you can turn it off, and then when you turn the power back on, press the speed button until you get to high speed, and then press start, and that'll give you a 14-minute drain and spin cycle. So power on. And then you can press the high speed spin, this one button here, high speed, and then 14 minutes, press start. And that's a fun way to get to the spin and drain cycle, so you don't have to wait for the whole thing. So I hope this gets your machine going too, and it shouldn't take you too long, pretty easy to do. Here's the old impeller. It does seem to spin okay, so I think this one in the motor was just burned out. So thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance. Thanks again.